The Bills won a fun one over the Vikings this past weekend. Let's talk to Sal Maiorana of the Rochester Democrat and Chronicle. And Sal, first things first, we believe that C.J. Spiller's out for the year. What's the latest on Fred Jackson?
Yeah, Fred, he had a radio appearance on Monday, and he kind of told those guys, maybe out of turn, that he was told it would be 3 or 4 week type injury, and he'll hope to get back before that. Now, it looked like a pretty severe groin injury. Fred's got amazing recuperative powers, and they do have a bye in there. They play the Jets this week, and then they have a bye week. So it's not implausible that he can't come back for their game against Kansas City, but I don't know. Groin injuries, they're tricky. That's not an ankle. So I would guess probably 3 weeks at the least for Fred before he comes back.
In the meantime, how much do you expect to see from Bryce Brown and Boobie Dixon? Like, which one do you believe will contribute the most at running back?
Well, it's interesting. I think Bryce Brown is going to get a good chance here. They brought him in the trade in the offseason, and to me, my feeling on that was it was kind of a move made for next year because I think they fully realized they weren't going to re-sign C.J. Spiller anyways, and Fred Jackson will be 34. So I think the Bryce Brown trade was made for the future, but now we're just getting to see it early because of the injuries. He's a pretty good player. I mean, he played not a lot in Philadelphia, but long enough to have 3 100-yard games during his time there backing up with Sean McCoy. So I think they're going to give him the bulk of the load and use Anthony Dixon very similar to the way they use Fred Jackson on third down. I think he's a better pass blocker, and he can catch the ball a little bit too. So, again, not knowing the game plan, and Malone is unconventional sometimes in what he does, but I would think Bryce Brown first and then Fred Jackson.
Sal Maiorana of the Rochester Democrat and Chronicle talking Buffalo Bills on 104.5 The Team, your home for New York sports. And Sal, the running game under Kyle Lorton hasn't exactly flourished the way that perhaps the Bills thought that it would. If we're trying to be optimistic here, are you interested to see 2 new faces back there and see how they do, at least to change things up at minimum?
Well, to be honest, guys, that might not matter at all because the problems with their running game have been solely for one reason, their offensive line. Their offensive line is terrible. They have, quite frankly, the worst guard play in the entire league. Nobody's worse. So that's been the problem. I mean, you can get a lot of running backs to run behind Dallas' offensive line now. You don't even need DeMarco Murray down there. But to the Bills, I'm not sure it matters who carries the ball at this point. They've got to get better play up front. And until they do that, like I said, it won't matter if you got OJ back there. They're not going to have a good running game.
Did the Bills not see that coming? The offensive line?
You know what? I don't understand why they didn't see it coming because they had problems last year at the guard position. Greg Urbick and a combination of Doug Legursky and Colin Brown were your guys who played. Well, they got rid of Legursky. Colin Brown was cut during the season, and they benched Urbick all season. So, they saw they had trouble last year. Unfortunately, they're not any better. They moved Eric Pierce inside, who was terrible at tackle, and he's no better at guard. He's the worst-ranked guard in the NFL, according to the analytics site Pro Football Focus. The worst. And then they put the rookie in Richardson, who's 75th out of 78 guards. So, if they saw it coming, they did a poor job of rectifying the situation.
Sal Maiorana of the Rochester Democrat and Chronicle on 104.5 The Team.
Sal, we see Mike Williams had 5 total plays on Sunday. Is he done in Buffalo? Like, is this now Chris Hogan taking what we thought would be his spot?
Yeah, I mean, it looks like Hogan has clearly supplanted him as the third receiver, and it's kind of puzzling. We're not really sure why, but for whatever reason, Mike Williams is just not fitting into the offense. And what's surprising about that, guys, is that Doug Marrone knew who Mike Williams was. He cut him off the Syracuse team when he was in his first year there. And then Mike Williams, he had some good years at Tampa Bay, but wore out his welcome. And then the Bills signed him in the offseason. They traded a 6th-round pick, I think it was, almost nothing. So they knew what they were getting, but I think they've really been disappointed in what he's brought to the table. He just hasn't done much. And Chris Hogan has gone past him. So, yeah, I think this is going to continue. I think you'll see Hogan playing primarily instead of Mike Williams.
Sal, other side of the ball, the Bills were the number one ranked rushing defense in the league, and then Minnesota gets 5.4 yards a carry against them. Was that an anomaly, or could it be a rough day against Chris Johnson and Chris Ivory when they play the Jets?
Well, there's no doubt the Jets can run the ball. They showed that last week. They finally, well, you know what? They haven't been giving Ivory much of a chance. They finally did against the Patriots, and the kid's pretty good. So I think you'll see a steady diet of him on Sunday. As far as the Bills' run defense, I think it was one of those days. I mean, they hadn't given up 86 yards in the first 6 games. They were number one in the league coming in. The Vikings, blocked them pretty well, and the Bills admittedly missed tackles. I think they counted, I think it was 9 missed tackles for the game, which is pretty high. So I think it was one of those days. I don't think the Bills' run defense is that bad at all, but we'll see. It's a good test this week. The Jets can move some people up front, and they've got some decent backs.
Sal Maiorana of Rochester Democrat and Chronicle on 104.5 The Team talking Buffalo Bills.
Sal, you hear anything about Mario Williams? He didn't play a lot on Sunday, and there was one point where he actually pulled himself out of the game. Is he dinged up, or what's going on there?
Yeah, they said nothing to us. Mario is not exactly forthcoming with the media, so we don't really spend much time talking to him. He's not the friendliest guy in the world, and he's not going to offer anything anyways. So he hasn't even been asked about it, and Marone did not offer anything because he's not on the injury report. So it was a season-low snap count for him, and I'm not sure what happened. I don't know if it was he was resting or if it was scheme or if he got hurt, but I would tend to think something was bothering him because he wouldn't have played that few amount of snaps otherwise.
Geez, Sal Maiorana, the Rochester Democrat and Chronicle. Find him on Twitter at Sal Maiorana. Sal, thanks for your time. Appreciate it. Go Bills against the Jets this weekend, sir.
All right, guys, anytime.